Surah of Surah. It's the last surah of a large group of surahs, Surah Al-Sajda. I'm not going to talk about the group because that's too much of a burden for this talk. But it's whenever you find a surah at the end of a group of surahs, it usually is there to either summarize the meanings that came up in the surahs before it, or to kind of top off the topics with something that is needed for everything to come to completion, which is what Surat Al-Sajda kind of does. Surat Al-Sajda talks about renewing the relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After many surahs before it focused on issues that were much more pragmatic and much more practical in nature, Surat Al-Sajda came with a spiritual touch to it, and it's a perfect ending for this cluster, and it's a perfect beginning or a transitional surah for the group that's going to come after it, from Ahzab to Az-Zumar. So it's just outright surah, and it's one of the surahs that have a specific importance within Islam, because the Prophet ﷺ gave it a repetition of usage. So whenever you find a surah that the Prophet ﷺ commanded you to read more than once, or once every once in a while, annually, once a month, once a week, once a day, or he himself would repeat in certain occasions, usually that means you should give that surah a bit more attention, just for your own sake, so you can learn from it more. And Surah Al-Sajda, as we all know, is a surah that the Prophet ﷺ would specifically recite in the Fajr of Yawm al-Jumu'ah. Every Yawm al-Jumu'ah at Fajr, he would recite Surah Al-Sajda in the first rak'ah, and then Surah Al-Insan in the second rak'ah. And the reason he recites Surah Al-Sajda, because of its beautiful purpose, or the theme that it carries within it, which is renewing the relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and what that requires, and why you're supposed to do it, how you're supposed to do it, and what it's going to look like. And that's basically what Surah Al-Sajda comes to talk about. And the name itself is the answer of the theme I told you. The renewal of the relationship is what it's going to turn into a sajda, not a literal one. There is a literal one, but that's not what he's talking about. He's talking about the figurative sajda, meaning when your heart makes sujood, and your mind makes sujood, and your consciousness makes sujood, when everything prostrates to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then the body is just going to follow because everything else is doing it. But when the body does it, nothing else does it. I'm not sure how beneficial that actually is. I'm not sure if it actually does anything or serves a purpose to begin with. But when every part of you prostrates for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then your body is going to do it just as what else is it going to do? It's going to follow whatever your heart and mind have decided to do. So we recited the first 15 verses of the surah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala began the surah by talking about two elements of faith, two elements of belief. He talked about the most difficult two elements of belief, the most difficult of all. There are a lot of elements of iman that are pretty simple. Believing in the deity himself, believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself is not that difficult. But believing in the book, believing that he sent a book, and believing in hisab, those are difficult issues. For example, the Arabs, specifically before the Prophet ﷺ's bi'ath happened, وَلَئِنْ سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ لَيَقُولُونَ اللَّهُ وَلَيَقُولُونَ خَلَقَهُنَّ الْعَزِيزُ الْعَلِيمُ. They'll say it's Allah who created all this. They have no problem in believing in a supreme or superior power. But tell them that he sent a book or communicated with you, and that's a problem. Tell them that after you die, you're going to come back again and be held accountable for what you did, and that's not okay. That's too difficult. And even today, when you speak to agnostics, those who are agnostic, or those who are atheists, or those who kind of lie between worlds or between faiths, they don't. If you discuss with them the concept of believing in a power, they're a bit more flexible on that point. But then you talk about religion, and what you mean by that is prophecies and books, and that's where things change. Tell them you're going to come back again, and that's completely off the table. And those are the two most difficult parts of faith. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about them within Surah Al-Sajda. Why? In order for you to have the proper relationship with Him subhanahu wa ta'ala, your belief system has to be impeccable. It really does. Your belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to be perfect. It can't be anything less than 100%. If it is anything less than 100%, then you're focusing on the wrong aspect of religion in general. If you don't really believe fully, if you have doubts in the fact that He sent books subhanahu wa ta'ala to prophets and that the day will come when you are going to be resurrected from your grave and you're going to stand and be asked and be questioned about how you lived, then focusing on khushu' and that's you're wasting your time. Just leave that alone and come back to this point, because this is where everything lies. This is the point that you have to work on first. This is basically when you don't have proper iman in that, when you're not certain, it's like you pulled the plug. The machine's not going to run. You can stand in prayer as much as you like. The machine won't work because you pulled the plug. This is the basic concept of faith. The belief system has to come first. That's why when you read any Makki surah, you will find in each and every Makki surah verses upon verses upon verses that talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what He created. It talks about the phenomena of nature, and talks about ba'ath and resurrection. Every single Makki surah. You may find a Madani surah that doesn't have that. That may be. Surat Al-Sajda, for example, doesn't really have many verses that talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation and the phenomena of nature. Why? Because it's a Madani surah. Why? Because they've already moved on, the Sahaba. They've moved on from that point. They've already established that faith. They know what they believe in. They have certainty at this point. They have yaqeen. They don't need to be continuously talking about this anymore. But if you don't have that part, if for some reason you didn't obtain it growing up, or you got tangled into practice before you took the time to actually reflect and contemplate and develop a proper belief system, then you have to take a step back and spend some time on that. It'll be the most difficult thing you do, but it'll be the most rewarding thing that you do. Because the moment you obtain certainty and you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have no doubt in this being His book. You have no doubt that you're going to come back and be resurrected, and you're going to be held accountable, and you're going to be asked about what you did in life, then the relationship after that can continue. Okay, then we can talk about, okay, let's move on. Let's talk about how we're supposed to feel towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how we're supposed to deal with Him. But not before. Because how are you going to talk about a relationship with someone that you don't have full belief that He exists to begin with? It makes no sense. How are you going to talk about, how am I going to talk to you about having a relationship with someone that you have some doubt in Him? It doesn't work. You at least have to have certainty in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in order for me to explain how to have a relationship with Him. Jalla Jalalullah, Taqaddas Allah. So that was the first page of Surat Al-Sajda. It moved on after that to talk about it gave us a bit of a snapshot of Yawm al-Qiyamah in preparation to giving us the anchor ayah of the surah. There's two ayahs in the surah that are the anchor ayahs, and that's where you make sujood in salah. So right in the middle, you make sujood. That's why every time you come for Fajr for Yawm al-Jum'ah, you end up making sujood at some point. And a lot of people, there's a lot of funny stories of people coming. They don't pray. They came Yawm al-Jum'ah for Fajr, and they thought that the people who were praying were Shia or some other religion because they made sujood before ruku'. And I get these questions all the time, and it's always a bit of a fun thing to kind of look at. He just came for Fajr and they didn't know that there was a sajda, so the sajda that they're going to make. The ayah that comes in, إِنَّمَا يُؤْمِنُ. I'll talk about that for a few minutes, then we'll continue. إِنَّمَا يُؤْمِنُ بِآيَاتِنَا الَّذِينَ إِذَا ذُكِّرُوا بِهَا خَرُّوا سُجَّدًا وسبحوا بحمد ربهم وهم لا يستكبرون تتجافى جنوبهم عن المضاجع يدعون ربهم خوفا وطمعا ومما رزقناهم ينفقون. Exclusively the ones who truly believe in our signs. The word ayatina very rarely means verses in the Quran. Very, very rarely. Maybe once or twice in the whole Mus'haf. Whenever you see the word ayatina, He's talking about His signs subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He's taking your attention to whatever He talked about in the surah before. So if you go back to the first page, it's filled with His signs. خلق السماوات والأرض وما بينهما في ستة أيام ثم استوى على العرش ما لكم من دونه. These are His signs. We'll go back to that. Exclusively the people who actually believe in our signs, who have certainty, who don't have doubt, who have established that, are the ones, once they are reminded of these signs, الَّذِينَ إِذَا ذُكِّرُوا بِهَا, if they're reminded by it, if it's recited upon them, if they're told, remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who created this, or the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala given to them, خَرُّوا سُجَّدًا, they will fall in prostration. وَسَبَّحُوا بِحَمْدِ رَبِّهِمْ, and they will exalt their Lord while they praise Him, وَهُمْ لَا يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ, with not an ounce of arrogance or vanity within their hearts. تَتَجَافَى جُنُوبُهُمْ عَنِ الْمَضَاجِعِ. The word tajafi, the jafa is when someone doesn't want to be near you. Al-jafa, right, in the Arabic language, is when someone wants to be a bit far away from you, or they're showing some signs of farthering themselves from you. The tajafa junubuhum, this is a very interesting or specific phrase in the Arabic language that is used here. It's not used anywhere else in the Quran. تَتَجَافَى جُنُوبُهُمْ عَنِ الْمَضَاجِعِ. Junubuhum is their sides. Their sides seem to be unsteady. They can't seem to calm down when it comes to lying on their beds. And madaji is where they sleep. They're lying there, but they can't seem to lie down long enough. They can't seem to hold down steady. They can't seem to do it. What is the reason? يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ خَوْفًا وَطَمَعًا. Because they have this urge, there's this itch that they need to go and they want to speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They want to supplicate Him in tama' and khawf, in two things. Out of fear of maybe them not doing what they should have done and punishment awaiting them. Or tama', they have some level of greed. And greed is never good, except when you have some greed in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be generous with you. That's the only time it's okay to be greedy. Be greedy with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in terms of His reward. But don't be greedy in anything else. تَتَجَافَى جُنُوبُهُمْ عَنِ الْمَضَاجِعِ. They can't seem to keep their bodies on their beds because they want to go and supplicate their Lord out of fear and out of greed in His reward. وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. And they spend from what they were given. If you look at the end of both verses that I just recited to you, at the end of each verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala quotes something that they do in response to Him. Meaning, the first one, إِنَّمَا يُؤْمِنُ بِآيَاتِنَا الَّذِينَ إِذَا ذُكِّرُوا بِهَا خَرُّوا سُجَّدًا وَسَبَّحُوا بِحَمْدِ رَبِّهِمْ. This is what they are like. Whenever they hear the signs, they immediately fall in prostration. They can't help themselves. And they praise their Lord and they exalt their Lord. But what else do they do? وَهُمْ لَا يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ. There's no arrogance in their hearts. There's no vanity. And then the second ayah talks about how they can't seem to stay asleep because they want to go and they want to supplicate their Lord, because they're afraid of punishment and they have tama' in what He has in His reward. And at the end of it, وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. It's very interesting, this correlation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes between the spiritual response, the emotional response you have to your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is correlated very, very clearly to the way that you behave and the way that you conduct yourself, the conduct that you carry. You're not arrogant, and you're someone who spends his wealth for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And because those things, you do both. Because you have these two parts within your life, you're capable of actually doing the first part. You wouldn't be able to actually fall in prostration. He doesn't mean this literally, subhanahu wa ta'ala, only. He's talking about the spiritual aspect of it as well. Being actually prostrating for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, feeling that closeness to Him, Jalla Jalaluhu. Not being able to sleep at night because you want to go and you want to speak to Him, you want to make dua, you want to ask, you're afraid and you're hopeful of something good. That wouldn't happen if there was arrogance. And that wouldn't happen if you were someone who didn't spend his wealth for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the way He commanded Jalla Jalaluhu. So He's correlating between two things. You want the relationship again? Yes, Ya Rabbi, I want. Isn't that what you come here for? Especially in Ramadan, isn't that the whole point? When you come and it doesn't work out, you go home upset and try a different masjid, a different imam, because this guy's he's not doing it for me. And you keep on looking until you find someone, because you're looking for khushu', right? That's what you're looking for. You want that relationship again. You feel like it's dead. You feel like you're not connecting. You want to connect. Well, Surat Al-Sajda said, yeah, look for an imam, that's fine, but that's not going to fix the problem. That's not how. First, you have to make sure the faith problem is taken care of. And then the next part, if you really want to come to that level, where when you hear His name, subhanahu wa ta'ala, every part of you prostrates for Him. And when you go to sleep, you feel like you want to get up again and go supplicate and speak to Him, but you're going to sleep because you have work in the morning, and you have to go to work. But you almost want to get up. Well, that's not going to happen unless after you believe in Him, you continue to follow His commands the way He told you to follow His commands. Unless you spiritually are not someone who is arrogant. That's like a symbol for all the spiritual things He told us not to do. The symbol of all the actions He commanded us to do in terms of conduct. You spend your money, that's the most difficult of all, to spend your money for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if those aren't there, you're not going to get that. It's not going to work. He puts them together, he mixes them. In the ayah, they're mixed together. So there's no separation. So I can't come and say, but this is separate. No, I can't separate them. He won't let me. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. The way linguistically He put the verses together, He won't allow me to separate these concepts away from one another. You want to renew the relationship. You have to work on your faith first. That's the first part of the sajda. And also you have to make sure that the commands that He gave, when He said you cannot be someone who is arrogant, you can't think you're better than others. وَهُمْ لَا يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ. Wallah is the most important part of being a Muslim. I don't know a more important thing. I think I spent a number of years with shuyukh who taught suluk, who taught tazkiyah, who talked about the heart and how you're supposed to watch. Wallahi, 90% of the time that we spent with them was focused on vanity and arrogance. And they drilled this into our heads because it wasn't just understanding it, it was being able to actually embrace it. And it's very hard to embrace. It's very hard to give up your ego. It is the most difficult thing you will ever do. That is if you do it. Because you can easily live a life not doing it. You can mask it nicely, You can cover it up, and the little bump will just be there, and you'll act like it's not there. But Yawm al-Qiyamah, everything is stripped off. And if it's there, it's there. And you're not walking, you're not moving. Jannah's not an option. If there's an ounce of it. If there's just a little bit. If you think you're better than anyone, for any reason at all. Because you're a better Muslim. That's the worst reason of all. That's the worst reason. To think you're better than someone because you're a Muslim. Because of the ultimate blessing He gave you, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Suddenly you're better. What? Based on what? Based on the fact that I gave you the best thing you could possibly hope for. Now you're better? Why? It doesn't make any sense. And there's other reasons as well. There's less important reasons, like those who think they're better than others because of money. That's ridiculous. Islamically, that's ridiculous. People do it, but it's ridiculous. It's not even worth the time of the day to talk about. If you think you're better than people because of money, or because of the lineage you come from, or the house you live in, or the car you drive, or the clothing you wear, or whatever, that's a ridiculous claim. Whether you're religious or not, that's completely unacceptable. But there's also arrogance within faith itself, where I'm a better Muslim. I've raised my kids to be better Muslims. I have a better Muslim wife or better Muslim husband, and I follow the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which makes me thus better than fulan and fulan and fulan. You will not be one of the people who kharru sujjadan wa sabbahu bihamdi rabbihim tatajafa junubuhum. You can't be one of those people. Not that you're not allowed to. No, you can't do it. It's not going to happen for you. The relationship you're looking for is not going to happen. He won't allow it in. The love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the true relationship with Him and arrogance can't be in the same heart. One or the other can be there. So you have to make your pick. Which one do you want? Do you want that illusion of self-esteem? It's an illusion, really. That's all it is. There's no truth to it in any form or manner. Or do you want the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be in? You have to make a choice, and it's a really hard one. And you'll spend maybe a good amount of your time trying to pull one out and put the other in. But if reading these two verses that we make sujood in every single Friday morning, as a reminder for us, if that's what you want. Yes, Ya Rabb, I want every time I'm reminded by your signs, I want to fall in prostration for you. I want to exalt you and praise you. I want to be someone who can't sleep. He wants to speak to you so much, Ya Rabb. That's exactly what I want. What about la yastakbirun? How are you with that? How are you with mimma razaqnahum yunfiqun? Are you good with that? No, not really. What about your faith part? What about the first page of Surat Al-Sajda where he spent time talking to you? Is the certainty level there? Do you get it up? No, I don't have this, that, or the other. Well then, there's your answer. It's pretty much already done. He goes on subhanahu wa ta'ala and he says, فَلَا تَعْلَمُ نَفْسٌ. This is more of a selling point. If what I told you so far is didn't make it, didn't hit the spot, well then this will. فَلَا تَعْلَمُ نَفْسٌ. There is no soul that knows. مَا أُخْفِيَ لَهُم مِّن قُرَّةِ أَعْيُنٍ. What has been hidden for them from the coolness of their eye. The word قُرَّةِ أَعْيُنٍ, that's how we translate it. Coolness of your eye. When was the last time you heard some English dude say that? In any sentence at all? Never. They never use that because it's not a part of their language. It's not a part of their culture. But in Arabic, قُرَّةِ أَعْيُنٍ is a very, very important phrase. It means the thing that you like the most. The thing that when you see, you are the happiest. That's what قُرَّةِ أَعْيُنٍ, قُرَّةِ الْعَيْنِ. قُرَّةِ الْعَيْنِ, when you see something, you're so happy. Just by seeing it be there. رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ. Give us from our wives and from our spouses and from our children something that when we look at, we're happy. Just when I look at my kids, I'm happy. Alhamdulillah. Everything about them makes me happy, isn't it? But that's very rare. But it's something beautiful to have. It's hard to get. It is hard to get. It's important. If you get it, then that means you are the most blessed person probably sitting amongst us. If you go home every day and look at your wife, look at your kids, say, Alhamdulillah, I couldn't be blessed with anyone better. If every day you can do that, then you are the most blessed person sitting in this room. Because everyone has problems. The beauty of Surah, but everyone has problems. Everyone has something going on. And it's a normal part of life. It's a normal part of life. Nuh had that problem, Lut had that problem. We're not better than them. So Qurrat A'yun is just the thing that you enjoy the most, that brings you the most happiness of all. That's what the meaning of Qurrat A'yun. فَلَا تَعْلَمُ نَفْسٌ. There is no soul on earth. مَا أُخْفِيَ لَهُمْ. What's been hidden for them in terms of what's going to make them the happiest they've ever been. جَزَاءً بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. In reward for what they used to do in this dunya. You don't know. You have no idea what's been hidden for you. He has hidden for you something that is so beautiful that when you see it, you'll be the happiest you've ever been just by seeing it. Before you actually take it in, before you actually use it and consume it, before that, the moment you see it, you'll be the happiest you've ever been all your life, and you have no idea about it. There's no way for me to explain it to you. There's nothing I can say that will make it closer for you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just left it with that. And that's just like a silly, maybe that'll bring the ambitions up just a little bit, so that you go and you put in the extra effort to get that relationship proper. And what better time than the last couple of nights of Ramadan. He goes on subhanahu wa ta'ala, but now if that part didn't sell it for you, meaning if you're not the type of person who good like me, and all the sweet talk never doesn't work for you, then probably you need the other type of talk. أَفَمَنْ كَانَ مُؤْمِنًا كَمَنْ كَانَ فَاسِقًا. Do you think seriously that those who have true belief are similar and are equal to those who have fisq, to those who went astray from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The word fisq is an interesting Arabic word. It's worth one day, inshallah, doing a talk just on the word fisq, because understanding it in the Quran is very important. It's a very commonly used word. But where it came from فَسَقَتِ الْحَبَّةُ مِنَ النَّوَىٰ. So whenever something is leaving the shell of something else, that's what it's usually used in agriculture from an Arabic perspective. So the fisq is someone who was given a way, but then they didn't like it, so they chose a different way. They broke the rule and they dug their own way. Even though the way that they were given was clear, it was straight, and they could keep on going, but they didn't want it. So the fasiq is someone who was shown the way. So there is a level of, so it gives you context. That someone fasiq is someone who's already been shown the way. Kafir may not know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all. May have never been told about Islam ever before. That's a possibility when the word is used. But fasiq means specifically that this person has been shown the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but he chose to go in a different direction. So now it makes sense to us, right? That makes a bit more sense. Yeah, because it's talking about someone who's going to have a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He has to know Him. So the word kufr wouldn't be very helpful here. Because a kafir doesn't know God, how do you have a relationship? But a fasiq is someone who knew Him. So he had the possibility of having a relationship, but he didn't want it. Or he didn't get it. Or he didn't actually go for it sincerely. So he didn't obtain it. أَفَمَنْ كَانَ مُؤْمِنًا كَمَنْ كَانَ فَاسِقًا. Are they equal? لَا يَسْتَوُونَ. They're not equal. أَمَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ فَلَهُمْ جَنَّاتُ الْمَأْوَى نُزُلًا بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. As for those who believed and performed the deeds that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created them to perform, they served the purpose that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put them on earth to serve. And that's how you explain عَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, by the way. It's not just doing good deeds, it's serving the purpose. That's what it actually means. Something salih is something that works. If you buy a lamp and it doesn't work, what do they write on it? Khayr salih, that's what they write on it. Maybe it's not pious? No. Doesn't do good deeds? No. It doesn't do its job. It looks nice. You could use it as you could use this, just put it there, but it's not going to give you any light because it doesn't serve its purpose. You could have a car that's just there for show. It's like a 1920 car, whatever. But it's not going to run, so it's ghayr salih. It doesn't do its job. It's just there for you to look at. Same thing as human beings. You can do a lot of things. But are you doing your purpose? Are you serving your purpose? If you are, عَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. If you're not, then any other word can work for you. Any other thing can be used. Those ones, لَهُمْ جَنَّاتُ الْمَأْوَى. They will be given the heavens of ma'wa. Ma'wa means eternal stay. Al-ma'wa is the place that you stay in, that you are protected in. Jannatul ma'wa, the heavens of eternal stay. Nuzulan, in full hospitality. The Arabic word for a motel or a hotel is what? Nuzul, that's what they use, you can look it up. Nuzulan means in full hospitality. بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. Again, based on what they did twice now. Twice now, جَزَاءً بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ, a few verses ago. And now again, بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. He repeats time and time again, بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. It's really up to you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't pick and choose. It's not like he likes fulan and hates fulan. It's not like he wants this person close to him, but he doesn't want you. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves all His creations, and He wants all of them to have a relationship, but it's going to be up to you. It's on you. It's your responsibility. You have to do it. And He gave you how. And Surat Al-Sajda is the secret ingredient that we're looking for. وَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ فَسَقُوا فَمَأْوَاهُمُ النَّارُ. As for those who did fisq, who broke loose and did their own thing, their eternal stay will be a different place. Will be the hellfire. كُلَّمَا أَرَادُوا أَن يَخْرُجُوا مِنْهَا أُعِيدُوا فِيهَا. Every time they try to leave, every time they find a way out, or they think they find a way out, أُعِيدُوا فِيهَا, they're returned in again. They work years and years and years trying to come closer to an exit or a way out. And just when they come close enough, they're returned back to ground zero again. And they have to work all over again. وَعِيدُوا فِيهَا. Not only is it pain and agony, it's also frustration. And this loss of hope. The worst part of it is the loss of hope that happens in Jahannam. They have no hope. They can't seem to muscle up any hope because there's no one there to respond to them. كلما أرادوا أن يخرجوا منها أعيدوا فيها وقيل لهم, and it's told that they hear a voice calls upon them, ذوقوا عذاب النار. May you taste the punishment of the fire. The punishment الذي كنتم به تكذبون. The punishment that you used to deny existed to begin with. The punishment that you denied. Takzeeb means you looked at the concept, what seemed to be the most probable answer to you, you said no, you took the other one. Kufr doesn't necessarily mean that. Kufr means disbelief. It's a very, very generic word, very general. Takzeeb is very specific. Takzeeb means that you looked at the idea, you looked at the concept, you thought about it, the most probable answer was A, you took B. For whatever reason. It could be arrogance, could be vanity, could be hatred, could be hasad, I don't know. It could be just plain laziness, but you saw A and B, A seemed more likely, you went with B anyway. That's takzeeb. And it's very, very specific usage in the Quran. And follow the word takzeeb in the Quran, and you'll be surprised when it's used and how it's used. It's very beautiful, or it's very insightful. وَقِيلَ لَهُمْ, and they're told, ذُوقُوا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Taste the punishment of the fire, the punishment that you refused to believe in, even though it was clear to you at the time. And then one of the most important verses in the whole surah. Probably not just in the surah, but probably in the Quran. I've always believed that the reason the Prophet ﷺ had us recite the surah was because he wanted us to read that one, so that we never forget it. This is what he says. Listen very carefully. وَلَنُذِيقَنَّهُمْ مِنَ الْعَذَابِ الْأَدْنَى دون العذاب الأكبر لعلهم يرجعون. And as for these people who did fisq, who chose a different way and went on it, and are now far away from me, and we don't have a relationship anymore, the relationship is dead, well, I will continue to have them suffer from simple adab, adab al-adna, meaning the adab al-adna means the lower type of adab, something that in dunya, the dunya adab, the punishment and the difficulties and the hardships and the misfortunes that happen here in this life. The difficulties that you go through in this life. I'm going to keep on giving them these difficulties, one after the other, one after the other. Why? Why, Ya Rabbi? Dun al-adab al-akbar, because I don't want to give them the bigger one. I don't want them to be truly punished Yawm al-Qiyamah. That's not the goal. The goal is not for them to be punished Yawm al-Qiyamah. The goal is that we give them enough punishment in this dunya, enough difficulties in this dunya, that they wake up and what? Yarji'un. لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. So they come back again. Come back again. You did fisq, you went in the wrong way, come back. Come back again. Come back. Come back and do it right, so that you can خَرُّوا سُجَّدًا, you can تَتَجَافَى جُنُوبُهُم, because it's a beautiful thing. What's more beautiful than that? We know for a fact that many scholars, I don't know which scholar said this. If I say a name, I'll probably be wrong because someone else will read it in a different book for a different person. But it's been said so many times that it's became an anthem of true scholarship. That they would say, مَا يَصْنَعُ بِي أَعْدَائِي, what can my enemies do to me? أَنَا جَنَّتِي وَبُسْتَانِي فِي صَدْرِي. My heaven and my orchard is in my chest. And my joy is inside, it's on the inside. You can't take anything away from me. In the Sajni khalwa, he put me in jail, then I'm getting a khalwa. I get some time alone to talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَإِخْرَاجِي مِن بَلَدِي سِيَاحًا. If you remove me from my country, well, I'll go be a tourist somewhere else. There's nothing you can do. You can't hurt me. And you're saying the concept that they're trying to say that you can't hurt me. Because what I own, the thing I own that is really worthy, the really worthy thing that I own, exists inside. It's inside. And you don't have access to my inside. So you can't take anything away from me. You have nothing on me. Isn't that a beautiful thing? Isn't that beautiful and awesome? To be that type of person. That's a free man. That's a free woman. That is true freedom. Nothing else matters. You can take anything you want. My wealth, my health, my freedom, my country, but you can't take away what I have inside. You don't have access to that. You can't touch it. And that's where my true joy comes. That's where I find my joy. That's where I do it. My joy is when we hear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's name and we prostrate for Him and we speak to Him and we get up at night and that's where our joy comes, and you can't take that away. And you can't touch that. وَلَنُذِيقَنَّهُمْ. Listen to it again. مِنَ الْعَذَابِ الْأَدْنَى. And don't listen to it about the fasiqeen, so I'm not those. No. I'm not saying we're fasiqeen. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that every verse in the Quran applies to everyone, right? So listen to it again. وَلَنُذِيقَنَّهُمْ مِنَ الْعَذَابِ الْأَدْنَى دُونَ الْعَذَابِ الْأَكْبَرِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. We're going to keep on giving them these hardships and misfortunes before they end up being punished Yawm al-Qiyamah, because we don't want that to happen to them. Maybe they'll come back. لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. We hope they come back. We hope they change their ways and they come back to us again. وَمَنْ أَظْلَمْ مِمَّنْ ذُكِّرَ بِآيَاتِ رَبِّهِ. And who is more oppressive to himself than the person who is reminded of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's signs, ثُمَّ أَعْرَضَ عَنْهَا, but he turns away every time. You say, Ya Habibi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says this, He did this, remind yourself of Allah, and he look, no, I don't want to. وَمَنْ أَظْلَمْ. Who is more oppressive than someone who does that? Who is being reminded of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala day and night and does not want to remember. أَعْرَض, they just turn away. ثُمَّ أَعْرَضَ عَنْهَا. No one is more oppressive than them. إِنَّا مِنَ الْمُجْرِمِينَ مُنْتَقِمُونَ. Indeed, though the criminals, we're going to punish them as... The word revenge is improper because that's not what the word muntaqimun actually means. But what it means is actually something in contrast or in opposition to something else. You did something, you get something in return, but it's in the negative way. So you harm someone, you get harmed back in return. This qisas is the better word for it in Arabic, or the word that is used more often. So it's not really revenge, it's more being treated by what you had put forward. But what's more important in the verse that I wanted is the name he used here. He used the phrase al-mujrimeen. We just talked about fasiqeen a few minutes ago, right? Fasiqeen are the ones who lose their way, lose their path, go in a different path. Mujrimeen, that's one level higher. In Arabic, whenever you use mujrim, it's always criminal, right? That's what we understand. Mujrim is a very generic word in the language of those who are doing wrong. But they're used here instead of fasiqeen because they've been reminded several times. The fasiq is someone who lost his way, lost his relationship, went in a different direction. And then if he's reminded, وَمَنْ ذُكِّرَ بِآيَاتِ رَبِّهِ ذُكِّرَ بِآيَاتِ رَبِّهِ, continuously being reminded of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's ways, and they don't want to remember, then it goes from fisq to ijram. It goes up one level up. Now they're called mujrimeen. And as we go into the surah, Al-Quran, the phrase tomorrow will change. So it started fisq, went into mujrimeen, and then tomorrow the word, read it today on your own, and then figure it out before I say it tomorrow. The phrase will shift one more time. I'll stop inshallah with that. Tomorrow we'll continue with the Tafseer of the Surah.